Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here today for Creative Expressions, and we're going to be looking at a top tip using 3D foam and flakes. Now I'm going to start off by making the tile background that you just see, and I'm going to use for this some 3mm foam tape from Woodware. Now I'm roughly cutting my strips in the same length, and I'm going to aim for about 30 of these. Once I've got them, I'm going to take a piece of black card and I'm going to start just placing them down, either like a tiled background maybe, or a brick wall, whatever you see in this, or whatever colours you wish to create, or whatever you wish to do with it afterwards is completely going to depend on the effect you're sort of creating. But just by taking my strips of foam tape, I'm going to lay them down with a bit of a gap between them. I want that sort of cement grouted effect, and that gap, I want the black to shine through. So I've left a good couple of mil in between each of my pieces. They're not particularly cut level or equal, and that really doesn't bother me. If it does you, then of course you could guillotine them or measure them out properly, but for me, I'm just quite happy to do this quite quickly. I'm going to trim them down so that I cover the whole of my background. I'd always start on a piece of card larger than I need it to be, so that I can trim the card afterwards as well, and I can neaten up those ends. You'll be surprised how easy this is to guillotine, even with all this foam tape on it, and card obviously, even with the flakes on top. So I'm never too worried about that. You can even die cut through this if you was using a relatively plain die, and depending on the machine you're working with, you might be able to cut an aperture inside the panel, or of course cut the panel out so you've got a shaped panel instead, which could be really cool. Now I'm just going ahead here and taking off all of the lids off of my foam tape. Now, to be honest with you, if you wanted to alternate between them, so you could create rainbow tiles, or you could just do a couple of colours, the choice is absolutely up to you. And I'm going to be using flakes for the top of mine, but you could instead, if you prefer, be using glitters or any other sort of mediums that are going to stick down onto this sort of body. Now, when we do get onto our flakes, which we'll be heading to in a second, I'm going to be using our chocolate gold gilding flakes. Now, these are a brand new limited edition product from Creative Expressions and Cosmic Shimmer. They've only just been announced and released, and I personally am absolutely in love with them. You've got some really lovely golds, some coppers, some chocolates all mixed in together, and they are just stunning. Once you've got them down on top of your tape, just use an applicator sponge and go in a circular motion over the top to burnish the flakes down to your foam tape, and this will make sure they stay nice and neatly in place. Once you've worked all the way across the top here, because we've got that sort of grout or cement effect in the middle, you might want to bring in a stiff brush and just brush over the top to make sure all of them excess bits are cleared, and it'll just neaten up the finish. I'm using a brush from a dustpan and brush set, but anything along them lines would be absolutely fine. Once you've neatened up your panel, we can then add more to it if we wanted to. So I quite like adding little gems or studs to each of the ends of the panel so it looks a bit like floorboards, but you could do many different techniques with it from this stage if you wish. This is that panel finished. Here's another version just showing you how you could do just a couple of diagonal lines, and you could alternate between flakes of gilding flakes and Aurora flakes. This is one built up more into like a parquet floor. Now we can also create frames for our cards with these. So what I'm doing here is I'm mitering my edges. I've overlapped my foam tape into an L shape, and then I've cut diagonally through the corner. So I know now that both of those corners are going to go back together perfectly. So I have a flawless corner that's perfectly mitered. Now I'm just going to do this on one corner for speed so you can see the finished result. But you could of course do that on all four corners and make up a frame, or you could just make up a border or a corner, or you could do several of these radiating in different sizes and then put different flakes or glitters over each one of them if you wish to. There are so many options with a technique like this. It's down to you how you wish to create with it. I'm using Aurora Flakes for this one, and they are the Morning Blush colour scheme. Now both of the ones I've done, I've shown you how you're going to place down your tape and then put your flakes on top. There's no reason why, if you don't want to take flakes to your project, you can't flake your tape first. So here I've just taken some 3D foam tape and I've added on Icy Lagoon Aurora Flakes. It's a bit neater and it saves taking the flakes onto your project if you would prefer. Of course, yo-yoing the size of your, or the depth of your foam tape can create really unique effects too. So if you want to play around with that, that's a good idea. This one's one of my framed cards, also created with the same 3D foam tape. All of the products I've shared with you today are of course available from all good Creative Expressions stockists worldwide. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.